Okay, so here's the deal. Basically, this foot, all right, has a front and it has a back. This is the back. This is the part that's going to go up against the couch. And this is the part that I want to basically somehow get as close as I can to about center on that. So all I can do is just really about ballpark it. And then I'm going to do that right now, the parts. So let's just pick up where we left off. So again, I have a mark that's at about where I want center between here and here, but I do want to center it on the item itself, and I've got 11 inches, so half of that is 5.5. So I'm just going to make a mark right here at 5.5. So then all I'm going to do, instead of getting crazy on this and trying to do anything wild with templates, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to put that on that X. I'm going to punch a, that's a GRK, it's a self-tapping. There's going to be a hole here anyhow. So I'm putting that in. Now I'm just eyeballing that and I can see it's a hair crooked. So I'm going to line it up as best I can and then go ahead and finish it off again and hold it in position. Okay, it's where I want it to be. Then using the next tool that's up on the micro bench, which is a 7/64 hinge bit. It's probably a snappy, which has just a slightly under 1/4 inch outside diameter on there, and these are 17/64, these holes, so it fits in there quite nicely, and you just grind her in. That's it. Putting that back up on the rack. Then I'm going to pull this guy out. Okay, now I need 3 circles to match that. That'll become my mortise. So for that, I could, if I didn't have the drill press, I could have just used a driver and put a Forstner bit in there. But since I have the drill press, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set that up for doing the mortises. Okay, so one of the items that I keep on the micro bench is an 11/16 Forstner, and here's why. I'm going to take the bit that I have in there out of there now. Got that going. Okay, so I set the table. I put a piece of scrap in there, right? Sacrificial. Then I put the piece in there. I might have 1/4 inch there at most, but which is fine because I'm only going to go down 3/8. I'm going to go ahead. And you can see it's flush. So it's flush right now. There's going to be 3 of them. We want them all to be the same height, the same depth. Otherwise, when you put the tenon in there, the tenon will be crooked or it'll rock, and you really don't want that to happen. You want it to be consistent. So depending on, every time you do a different, like if you're doing a whole bunch of these and you set it up for a particular thickness, like a 1 inch or a 1.5 inch thick board, you're done. But when you're changing thicknesses all the time, best thing to do is, again, get it to where you want it. I'm going to bring it right there, stop the rotation. That way when I push down, it can't go any further. Now I can go ahead and use the depth set, and so now I can bring her up, turn her back on, and then because we placed that dimple in there with the what do you call it, with the hinge bit, that point on the Forstner will actually set itself right in the dimple. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to come back and redo the center just to make sure that I'm at the same depth. And then I'm going to come down, and while it's rotating, it's going to find that dimple. Use the same pressure on the handle. And what you have is a perfect 3-hole mortise. And then just to test it, I can put that in there, and that's, again, what I'm looking for is enough depth that it's not only deep enough for the tenon, but it's also deep enough to handle the head of the bolt that's going to be in there. So I'm going to get, all right, so there's a dimple in the middle now that was created by the Forstner bit. Now that's our perfect center of the mortise. I want to run a bolt or hole all the way through here. That hole is going to be a 3/8 inch hole, but I'm also going to want to put a recessed washer in there. For me to recess that, the head of a bolt, and with a washer on it. So I'm going to use a Forstner bit in there. But if I were to come through with a 3/8 inch bit all the way through, and then through here, then to try to put a Forstner bit on that to go down, that Forstner bit's going to want to jump all over the place. So what I'm going to do is go down only to the point where the tip of this type of bit, the Craig type bit, touches. Now, if I was going to do a whole bunch of them, what I would do is I'd set the washer, the collar, on the depth, and then I know I'm going to be okay. But I'm just going to manually do it using my table as a there it is. So now, stop there, pull my bit out. Now I have the dimple that I need for the Forstner bit. Now I want to have a lot of options as far as the type of bolt that goes in there, the type of head, and the depth. So I'm going to go all the way up to a 1-inch Forstner. Don't need to typically do that, but I want to do that because, again, then I can use a washer that has a 3/4 inch outside diameter, or a 7/8 or whatever. So, and I'm going to do this manually again using the dimple, right? Okay, so now the main tray needs to be mounted. So then again, I'm just going to make a dimple with anything right here. That's my first dimple. And then that hole needs to go full through anyhow. The center hole is going to go full through anyhow. So if I just put that over the top of that, the center one, make sure I don't bump it. I have my dimple. Make sure I don't move it. If you're worried about that, put a screw in the center one. Dimples. Again, I go back to the drill press, and then I'm going to do the same thing here, where the first time through I'm going to run it down into the wood. I'm using the dimple, center dimple. Now I can go ahead and just jump over to the other two. Again, the dimple is finding the way. The dimple, if you're a little bit off, and just careful, the dimple will actually find its way into, the Forstner bit will find its way into the dimple. Plus, when this thing is spinning, it's transparent. The Forstner bit is transparent. So before you go too far, clearing, making sure it's going to clear the bench. I don't want to punch a hole through my bench, right? Get a lot of new thread on there so that the clamp holds. Okay, so now I'm going to use my bit, 3/8 inch Craig type bit. I'm going to go all the way through. Okay, making sure I keep nice and straight. And I'm not too worried about chip out on the other side.